Thank you everyone for joining us today. Basically, I'll show you our ETL process, show you the GitHub repo, show you the Visual Studio integration, and the Jenkins pipeline. And then for the source control integration, obviously it's a little bit simpler. So I'll just show you the GitHub integration task and how you would configure it for your environment. Let's take a look at some architecture around this and how we built this. This is a more of a high-level architecture graphic, and it shows you the two-way forward-backward communication process that we have established via the ETL tool that we use. So in our case, for demo purposes, we created an Azure Data Factory, or we used Azure Data Factory as our ETL tool. But you can really use anything, right, that is API, that has open APIs. So we leverage our APIs and we use the ETL APIs that are provided, and we programmatically extract these UAC configs and put them into source control. Additionally, if you look on the right side, we're showing further downstream processes that you might have with Jenkins or a testing tool, an automated testing tool like Selenium. Okay, so the first thing that we should look at here is that we have two environments. One, we have a dev environment here, and then two, we have a prod environment right here. Okay, so as you can see, my tasks are identical in both environments, meaning that the configuration was changed from one or transferred from one to the other. And this is done via this upload task, right? So right here, you can see our integration with Azure Data Factory, where we supply the Azure Data Factory name. We supply the credentials, the location, all of the basic Azure stuff. And if you're an AWS company, right, that's the tool that you use for your cloud needs, this would be equivalent to Azure Data Pipeline. So this is kind of the same thing. All we do is we build out this process, this ETL process in Azure, and then trigger it from the UAC. Additionally, we have a variable here that we built in called branch name, which will supply the branch in your Git repo to this field in the task. So as we look at the data factories, I have two data factories, one dev and one prod. So these pipelines are kind of complex, right? But essentially what it allows you to do is pull each one of these components from the UAC out of the UAC, convert it into JSON, and place it in your source control tool that you're using. And the same is true for the production pipeline. So once this ETL process completes, this is something similar that you would see in your environment. We would click on UAC, and we see that we have the same kind of folder structure that we would get within the universal controller. So if you look over here on the left-hand side, we kind of have folders for specific objects within the universal controller. And in here, we replicate the same structure. So if I open up tasks, I see that I have my Linux tasks, my Windows tasks, file monitors, etc. So if I open this up, I see that this configuration matches what I have in here, right? So this is effectively transferred one for one into GitHub or whatever source control tool that you choose to use. So as for Visual Studio, if I'm a developer, I can pull this code out and save it onto my local machine. You can see I connect to Git and I pull this out and put it into production, or I put it onto my local machine. So same thing here. I can open up the tasks, go to my Windows tasks, open up one of the tasks. And now I have my task in a, kind of a familiar format that DevOps engineers are used to working in, or, your developers might be used to working in. And they can go in here and change the command, for instance, right? Or supply a specific script to execute. And once they're done, they would save it and commit these changes back into source control. So this isn't a direct, at least in this example, this isn't a direct integration with Jenkins, but just to show you what I was talking about earlier, we have this Jenkins server sitting on a GitHub repository, a specific branch, waiting for commits. So once that commit arrives, it goes through these steps to put this into production, right? So it'll check the code out. It'll transfer the configuration first to the development UAC. It'll test it to make sure it works. And then it'll merge to the master branch and create a deployment tag. So once that's done, it'll deploy the configuration to production automatically. So this is, in a way, an automated, a fully automated end-to-end deployment pipeline for UAC workflows and tasks. So as you can see, it takes a little bit of time, but it's really not that much for an ETL process. But you can obviously expect it to be a little bit longer if you have, quite a bit of tasks. Then the other thing we have here is the source control integration. So this is a universal task, a universal kind of connector here to GitHub. This one's particular to GitHub. So if you use Bitbucket or GitLab, let us know so we understand what you need, and that will be a separate task for you that you can use. So the basics of this is that it uses an execution agent. So this agent doesn't have to live on the GitHub server or anything like that. This is just any agent that you can use that you already have installed. The next piece here is to let the task know what the base URL for the controller is. So here we supply the one that we're using. We provide API REST credentials, and right here is where we have the different types of ways, the different types of operations that we can use this task to execute. So right now we have the ability to export universal tasks and templates from UIC directly to GitHub. We can transfer files that are already living on the system into GitHub. And obviously you'll be able to send your tasks and workflows into GitHub. If we look over here in operation scope, we have a few choices about what part of the task we actually want to send. So let's say I want to send a universal task. I can send just the script, just the maybe the Python code behind the universal task, or I can send the whole configuration, the actual job with the universal task included, the code for the universal task included. So in this example, I'm transferring a universal template into source control. And then I'm telling it to go into a specific repository, right? And I'm supplying a GitHub token to authenticate. So it's really secure. It uses, already built-in integration and capabilities through GitHub. And you can even supply a change message while you're conducting this task right now. Additionally, right here under GitHub base URL, if you have, a local GitHub repository, you can go ahead and link it and deploy code to your local machine. Okay, so that's about it on the GitHub integration task right here.